Hariom everyone. We are starting this class on Kathopnishad. So we'll start with the chanting first. In Zoom, it's not possible to do it together. So those who want to chant, all of you can chant at your end while on mute. We'll start with the Shanti part. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः गणपति वंदना ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणपतये नमः सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः We'll just start the class now. So we are starting this text, the Kathopnishad. Earlier we have been doing with this. We have started with the basic text, which is Tattvabodha. Those of you who haven't joined or listened to those classes, I recommend maybe if you can watch it online, it's there on YouTube. I've shared the link in our classes group and maybe on Brihat also. But those who need it, you can ask me and I'll share the link. So once the basis is there for you guys, it will be easier for those who are new. So that knowing Tattvabodha is like knowing the dictionary of definitions. Once the dictionary of definitions, the basic terms is known, it becomes easier to grasp higher works of spirituality, which are all built on the structure of starting from the simpler one to the tougher ones and so on. Just like we move from class 1 to class 10 and so on. So in this scheme of things, in this text that we are going to study, uh, I will also try to ensure that those who have not attended, I will cover those portions wherever something is needed to be explained. I will, of course, not leave you hanging. I will try and explain to you wherever possible. And of course, if the session is open to questions, at the end, I can keep some time for questions. So anything you didn't understand or you want me to expand on, we can go ahead. So this first class, we will basically be looking into the whole Vedic structure. In case you find it difficult, don't worry. You don't need to understand the full Vedic structure. But once you know the overall picture, it is easier to know where we are standing or from which point we are proceeding, right? So in this way, we can actually know that the text that we are reading, what is its place in the total corpus of Vedic thought. Right. So when we are looking at the Vedic corpus, I'll just share it on screen where you can just have a look at the structure and then I'll explain because then it sticks in your mind. Let me see if I can find it for sharing. Here we go. So our Vedic structure is dominated by, or at the top of it is the main Vedas, the Ved. So Ved, a lot of people are discouraged from studying because they feel it is so tough. I do not agree with that kind of assessment. I feel that the Veda is something that if you can get into early is really going to be beneficial for all of you. So it's not that you can just go into it without any basic knowledge. Having some basic knowledge is enough, but just chanting the Vedic mantras is something that can confer a lot of benefits. So we have seen this earlier in the previous class also, but in the when I started the introduction to the Tattva Bodha class, but I am repeating it here. So when we look at this structure, what we have to remember is that this Veda is divided into many subsections. So this is the main Veda. वेद हम कहेंगे हिंदी में, इंग्लिश में वेद बोलने वेदा बोलने की आदत है, बट एक्चुअली इट्स वेद. सो this the main part of the Ved is the mantra bhag, mantra section. We can also call it the Samhita. So Samhita is the main part, and then the other three parts are the Brahmana, then Aranyak, and then the Upanishad, right? So these are the four parts of every Ved. So mantra is the main part. Each mantra, like we have the four Vedas, Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved, and Atharva Ved. So all these four Vedas are the crux of Hindu spirituality, in that all the mantras are given. What do? They are magical mantras. They are magical mantras. Mostly, if you listen to other spiritual talks, they will say there is two parts to the Vedas, the Ved Purva Bhag and Ved Anta Bhag. Ved Anta is the Jnana Kanda or the knowledge part. Ved Purva is the Karma Kanda or the one which teaches you Yajna, Havan, etc. But actually, that classification is not fully correct. It is only partly correct. When we look at it that way, we have to understand that mantra is the main part, right? So when we look at the mantra, each mantra, as I said, is magical. How so? Because each mantra has four meanings. We can say three meanings and one aspect. So that is the wonderful thing about these Vedic mantras. Any mantra that you read, the first meaning is the karmic aspect. How it can be used to beautify my actions in the universe. And so that crux is there hidden in the meanings. Because the language is such, where Sanskrit is such a beautiful language, that all these meanings can be expressed in the same way. So just to take a very small example quickly, every word has what we call a primary meaning. Then there are other secondary and tertiary meanings. So just like we can take one word like cow, goa. So go, you understand instantly cow, right? But is cow the primary meaning? No. If you look in the dictionary, you will find go means light, light or knowledge. So that is what go represents, brightness. Then what is the secondary meaning? The secondary meaning is our sense organs. The sense organs are able to receive knowledge. They are able to know something. They are able to illuminate the objects around us, right? So the ear can illuminate the sound aspect of everything. The eyes can illuminate the form of anything, and so on. So they are the sense organs, or the indriyas are also called the gaw. And then thirdly, the tertiary meaning is applied to the animal, because that cow is white, right? And it is also considered one of the very sacred animals in our society, right? Because it is the basis of our very agricultural society, where milk and all the products that come from it are the foundations for a healthy living. Right. So all these mantras have these different meanings. One is the karmic aspect. The second is the upasana aspect, how you can awaken different divine powers within you, outside you and within you. So all these devtas, we call them devtas. So those devtas you can bring into your life, you can awaken within you, and then they will work for your benefit. That is what upasana does. You surrender to them, they become your friends, they become your helpers. So that is the second meaning of the Vedic mantra. Then the third meaning is the Gyan, the knowledge aspect. It helps you to understand the nature of reality. So those mantras will, and they all go in very beautiful sequence, right? But it takes time. But thing is, once I explain one mantra, then you can slowly go on adding to the others. You can slowly derive from the meanings of the others from that basis. But of course, you will need to have some study first. So I think Anita is not here today, but with her, I did one mantra. It took us 1 hour to just analyze that one mantra, and yet we ended up not even finishing the final aspect. Oh, Anita is here. Okay, good. I see you. It is right. So it took us 1 hour to finish one mantra, and then further, we didn't even explore the vibrational aspect. Yeah. So the vibrational aspect is the final part. Each mantra has, every letter has a certain vibration that can awaken within you, because everything that exists in the universe is a product of vibration. Without vibration, everything will go back to the nascent state. It is vibration, shabda, that imparts uh, visibility or appearance to any object. Without that vibration, it is a part of the whole, what we call Brahman, or the total reality. There is no separation. It is the Shabda that separates it. Right? We'll look into these aspects some later. But then these are the four basic aspects. So when you just chant a mantra, the chanting itself, even without knowing the meaning, can awaken within you divine powers. And when you complete this whole process of chanting all the Vedic mantras, you will certainly feel a difference within you, something arising within you, some kind of knowledge that will be so bright that slowly any other text you read, you will be able to understand those texts. That is the magic of Veda, even just by chanting. But if you can start to understand the meaning, it will be more beautiful, right? Now, how do these meanings get revealed? There is one process, the easy process. You surrender to the Lord. You just bow down and give yourself up to the Lord. And then once you do so, start reading, and it will happen slowly, slowly over a period of time. But the tougher part, the regular part, is how you go through the other ancillary parts of the Veda, other parts of the Veda. So the Brahmana. So this Brahmana is basically the Brahman Bhag hai. The Brahman Bhag represents what we call the Karma Kand. They represent how different sacrifices are done. Havan, Yagya, all these are done. So all that process is described in these Brahmanas. And once you read these Brahmanas, and not just read, you practice what they teach, different sacrifices they teach, right? So once you practice those or sacrifices, then you will be able to understand the karmic meaning of that same Vedic mantras that you read, the Samhita mantras. So once you read these, once you understand these, once you internalize these Brahmanas, you will be able to understand the karmic meanings of certain Vedic verses. Slowly, when you read everything, you will be able to understand all. Right? Then the second part is the Aranyaka. When you read the Aranyaka parts has different what we call upasanas. So different upasanas, Om Upasana, and starting from that, all the different upasanas of different devis, devtas, and so on, or different powers of nature. Once you do those upasanas, again that upasana meaning of that same mantra will be revealed to you. And then finally, Upanishad. Upanishad is what we call the Jnana Kanda, or the knowledge part, where the nature of reality is revealed, the true nature of reality. So once this true nature of reality is revealed, then you are able to lead your life in what we call the highest state of freedom. The highest state of freedom. That is the beautiful beauty of our religion. Once you understand this deeply, you can live your life with the utmost of freedom, and also escape what you call the cycle of birth and death. You can reach moksha. So that is the main purpose of these Upanishads. They take us to moksha. So all these Upanishads I have enumerated here, one each of Brahmana, Aranyak, and Upanishad. All these are from that particular Veda. So what happens is the Ved mantra, they are one only. They are not different kinds. You must have heard of, some of you might have heard of shakhas. There are different branches. So the branches are not the that the mantra bhag is different, right? The if you would have heard of Krishna Yajurved and Shukla Yajurved. So there are two branches. But actually, when you read, the mantra bhag is same. What is the difference? Difference is in the Brahman, Aranyak, and Upanishad. So different schools, different areas, different rishis, they took these Ved mantras, and from that they derived the Brahmanas, the Aranyaks, and Upanishads. They are different for different areas, different places, different people. According to that, they were revealed verses. So Veda is basically revealed verses. The Lord is revealing those verses, and they can only be received by a rishi. So that is why we call them Shruti, heard. It is something that is heard. So the Shrutis are heard by the different rishis, and that is why there is no time limit. Those who do a historical analysis of Veda, they do not know the Veda. Simply, I will be very crude and rough about it. They do not know what the Veda is. Those who analyze it, the names as having certain dates, no. If there is Ganga in the Veda, it is not this Ganga river. It is the internal Ganga river. That name has been given later to a river in our country. So the names that are there in the Veda are not actual names or historical names of places and objects. They are all derived from there. So don't ever think, otherwise the Veda will not reveal itself to you. I can clarify that. So if you want the Veda to reveal, leave that misconception that this is a historical document. It is timeless. It was revealed to the rishis over different periods of time. And today, if your mind is of that level of purity, today you will also be able to get these verses revealed. If you can internalize, maybe if it is some less purity, then maybe a few verses. Say if you're because in explaining everything, it's not easy in such a short class. But just like, let me say, like the rishi in a Ved mantra represents the bhava, the emotion behind that. So if there is a rishi, the Vishwamitra is not a physical person. It is the bhava of friendship towards everything in creation. Vishwamitra. So the one who has that bhava, to him those verses will be revealed, right? So we can go more depth into this, but just keep this short. So the Vedic mantras, they reveal the picture of reality to us, and also how to express it through ourselves. How our own body, our own mind, our own intellect can express it and behave in the world accordingly, right? Any knowledge is not complete till it becomes part of my nature. Otherwise, it is just information. Then it is not knowledge, right? So for this knowledge, for this Vedic knowledge to percolate, it has to become part of my behavior. So this Vedic corpus, it contains all these different levels of knowledge whereby you can raise yourself up to the highest knowledge, right? So now we can't start directly with the Veda. It's not easy. As I said, with Samarpan, you can do so, but you need some kind of basic training in Sanskrit, or if not in Sanskrit, at least in the meanings of some of the verses, so that once you know those verses, then you can accordingly correlate. So again, you will have to read the meaning in translations. But once you know Sanskrit, it will be more easier. So once to these rishis, the nature of reality is revealed. They write them they started to write the nature of reality in the form of what we call sutra. Sutra is a very small codified sentence within which lot of information is coded, and then it is used to express the nature of certain things. So these sutras, they were used to describe the nature of the universe. And so we have what we call our six sciences. These six sciences are Darshanas, Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Yoga, Sankhya, Purmimansa, and Vedanta. So Nyaya is the logical aspect. Nyaya treats all the ways in which logic can be expressed. Nyaya is about all about logic, right? So we are doing Nyaya classes right now. We are approaching the end that we do on Sundays. And then Vaisheshika is more like physics. It represents the micro nature of the universe, starting from the smallest of elements, which we call the Paramanu. Paramanu is the smallest unit of matter, which has zero size and zero mass. It is difficult to comprehend when I'm saying it like this, but once we understand it, when we read the text, when we learn it completely, then we'll understand such a beautiful Shastra whereby almost all of today's modern science can be contained in that, and yet it has more information that can help clear the paradoxes in most of modern science. So I have written a book on this also, and I'm doing some final finishing to that. So there also I have shown that it's so beautifully it is able to explain all the modern concepts of science that includes classical physics, quantum physics, and string theory, and all the other new variations. Then yoga is the science of the mind, controlling your thoughts, raising them to the highest level, the level of samadhi, and being able to connect to that highest reality, which is Brahma, Brahman, or whatever name you want to use, or don't use any name, which is most perfect, right? So, the ultimate realities. And then Sankhya is the nature of reality at the macro level, right? At the level of the universes and so on. And then Purvimamsa, the nature of action. Vedanta, Vedanta is what we are studying. This text that we are studying, this comes within the Upanishads. Upanishads come under also Vedanta. Vedanta represents the nature of the soul, Atma, my own nature, understanding the nature of my own self. So when all these the shastras are understood, taken up, these darshan shastras, they have been taught by different schools, right? So for the most of them, there are limited schools that teach them, so they have a very uniform uh, structure of explanation. But the biggest variation is in Vedanta. So in Vedanta, what we have is these are what we call the uh, Darshan Shastras, right? So these Darshan Shastras are expounding a certain philosophy. Certain philosophy is expounded. Now, this philosophy can have different variations according to the people studying them, different variations. So, within Vedanta itself, there are so many different what we call sampradaya. So, sampradaya is different and Darshan Shastra is different. So each Darshan Shastra can have multiple sampradayas, multiple schools of thought who study that. So out of these, and like Vedanta, we have the principal ones are Advait, Dvait, and Vishishtadvait. Of course, there are others also, Shuddha Advait, Advaita Advait, and so on. So there are very within these 7 to 8 different denominations also. So basically, the structure of study or knowledge is this. Uh, we have to understand all these Darshan Shastras are not clashing with each other. Never are they clashing with each other. They are or they are like expressing six different facets of the reality, just like chemistry and physics and maths and logic. They are all different ways of learning the nature about something. It's the same thing. Similarly, the nature of reality, these are the six schools. So it is like the story of the six blind men and elephant. They were able to explore different parts of the elephant and they thought that was the whole elephant. So similarly, all these schools, they explore different parts of this reality. So they complement each other. They complement each other. They are never clashing with each other. But in Sampradaya, there is some clash. Right? So that clash is nothing wrong. Huh? It is something that happens that whenever a science needs to be developed, then there have to be different ways of understanding it. There has to be a system of debate and discussion, right? So this debate and discussion is something that helps strengthen the science that we are looking at, right? This system. So when we are looking at Vedanta, then we have Advait. Advait postulates the reality as one. There is only one whole reality, and that is Brahman or Atma or self or myself or whatever. So when that is expressed, that is the only reality. Everything else is a projection upon that. Everything is what we call mithya, unreal. So we have seen that concept in when we did this Tattva Bodh. We will see it here also, because Advait is something that is a part of every Shastra. But it is just that there are different ways of looking at this reality as one, right? So in Advait, we look at this reality as one unchanging, seamless reality. And that is a path that is one that takes more to sannyas, to a way away from the world, right? So, in fact, it is nothing, there's nothing wrong about it. It's a way of giving up our attachments to the world, not leaving the world. So that is the basic crux of that. But then in the other shastras like Dvait, there the Jivatma, the individual and the Paramatma, they are treated as two different entities, right? Two different entities. So this in Dvait, there is this system of duality. So Advait will criticize Dvait, Dvait will criticize Advait. They both are at loggerheads because they have a different way of looking at this reality. There is nothing wrong, neither is Dvait wrong, neither is Advait wrong, neither is Vishishta Advait wrong. But of course, when you study Advait, they will say the rest are wrong, right? Why? Because any teacher wants you to focus on the subject matter that that teacher is teaching. He will not want you to wander everywhere. So that is why this system is put in place so that you can focus on that. So in Dvaita, the reality is focused as there is a separation between the individual and the total or Ishvara. So due to that separation, you accept two realities. So Advait will say two realities are not possible. If something is real, it has to be infinite, and there cannot be two infinite. That logic we saw in Tattvabodha. So in Dvait, when you accept two realities, that is not accepted by Advaita. But what is their basis of saying it? They say that even if you accept one reality, that one reality should have the power to express itself as multiples, right? So whether you whether you accept the multiple as illusory, as Maya, or whether you whether you express it like this as the all-powerful entity, all-powerful unity, able to express itself in multiple ways, it is the same thing. So that is the position of duality. And then again in Vishishtadvaita, so Vishishtadvaita, there is one reality is dependent upon the other, accepting both, but one dependent on the other, Jiva merging into the other. So that is also another way of looking into that. But again, Advait will criticize, it will say that one thing cannot merge into the other unless they are the same. Right. So if you have one big ball of, say, atta and a small one, they have to be atta only, then you can merge them. Otherwise, if they are different things, you can again separate them. Right. So that is the position of Advaita. So these are three different schools of philosophy. There are different variations within this. These variations are able to discuss. So these are what we call the Sampradaya. So they, through their discussions, they bring about newer facets about the reality. So what I prefer to take up is what I call the Vedic vision. The Vedic vision includes all the Vedantic visions and also all the Sampradaya. In Vedic vision, what is there? In the Vedic vision, we accept that there is one reality and it is able to manifest all the different realities, something closer to Dvaita, without splitting into separate entities. Right? Just like one big ball of clay can be used to make different kinds of pots and spoons and different kinds of things, even what images, murtis, and so on. Like this example is there in the Chandogya Upanishad, and of course in many other places where this is how it is expressed, that the material is one, its forms are many. So just like gold, one gold can have different ornaments can be made out of gold, but the quantity of gold, the gold will always remain the same. The gold itself does not change. That is the way of understanding it. So these are the different sampradayas which are able to express this reality and discuss its different facets. Then there are other parts which are related to the practical aspects, which we have the Upaveda. The Upaveda consists of Natya Shastra, Dhanurved, Gandharva Ved, Ayurved. So they represent different practical aspects of the Vedic knowledge. Then we have the Itihasa, which is we have Purana, Ramayana, and Mahabharata. So the Puranas, Ramayana, and Mahabharata, they represent the Vedantic or Vedic concepts in the form of stories. These are not stories in the sense that actually this is something that is just told to express, but they are realities corresponding in a realm, in a plane of thought or plane of existence different from our own. So the devtas that are described there, they are actual realities that exist in different planes through which we can connect, but most of us are not able to. A few people can connect. So they all represent each of the stories. Whenever we have finished this, or whenever you want to take up any story in the Puranas, I can explain to you what its meaning will be in the terms of Vedantic concept. Everything is expressed in Vedantic concepts only. So every little thing in the stories of Puranas will have some kind of Vedantic or Vedic concept, which that story is describing. Then we have the Smritis, which represent the law aspect. So Yagyavalkya, Ashwalayan, Manusmriti, then Samkhyana, Apastam, all these Smritis contain different laws that were used to govern people or to govern the behavior of people at different points of time. So Smritis are changing according to time. They are never accepted as absolute, but they are, of course, derived from the Vedic thought itself. So they contain a lot of Vedic principles which are then applied to different times, right? So they depend on the mental level of purity of the people. So if it was in the Satyug or in the Treta Yug, then the Smriti will be very, very strict, because the people were expected to adhere to a very high level of purity and goodness. Once that level was degraded or people fell down from that, the punishments were very, very severe. And they were severe for all castes, not just one. Some people read the Manusmriti and say that for some punishment, like pouring wax into the Shudra is prescribed. But for the Brahman, the punishment is even more severe, because you knew what had to be done, yet you did wrong. So for him, there is a even more stricter punishment. So all these smritis describe different laws, how they have to be followed, what are the punishments for not following the laws, and how a society is to be governed so that it functions in the most smoothest manner. I have discussed in Tattvabodha the nature of our society, the different varnas, the Brahman, Vaishya, Shudra, and how they are integral and important to smooth functioning of society, and how that has been totally that structure has been destroyed by today's wrong thinking. But it is one of the most beautiful things Shastra has given us. Then there are other parts which we call Vedanga, which they represent the different academic aspects of Veda. So Vyakarana represents grammar, Jyotish represents the divination of the things to happen from the positions of the stars and planets. Then we have Nirukta, which analyzes called etymology or the structure of words, and how, especially for the Veda, how each word can have multiple meanings. So in Nirukta, you will have one word having 15, 20, 25, 30 meanings also. And that is how. Then you have Shiksha, Chand, and Kalpa, similarly, all related to different etymological aspects, pronunciation pronunciation aspect, and also the structure of a sentence. So all of these represent something closer to grammar and speaking. So all these are there. Then, of course, there are other aspects which we have the practical aspects, which is a very, very long list. So I'll not bring this up here, but that basically represents all the different levels of science that our society developed in those ancient times, by which we were able to develop a very high level of scientific development and technological engineering development, which is still visible from the whatever leftovers we have from those time periods. So now we have what we call, we are entering into this text, which is the Kathopnishad. So this Kathopnishad is uh, an Upanishad from one of the Vedic shakas. So Kathopnishad is from the Yajurveda. So Yajurveda is, it's not that the Upanishads are there in the Vedas. Huh? Anita, you want to ask something?
Yes, sir. A sample of those sciences, the long list that you mentioned about the tactical aspects.
Sample of those sciences, they represent, like we have Rasayan Shastra, so about chemistry. Then we have Vasayanas, we have this Vastu Shastra representing the construction of buildings, right? A study of different poisons, study of different medicinal herbs, that comes under Ayurveda also, but there is a separate science for that, and so on. I'll bring that list sometime. I'll talk it over. Long list, right? So we had so many sciences. Just I will share that in the group. I have written it down somewhere. I'll share that in the group. Not all, but a basic list. So when we look at this, so when we have looked at this Vedic structure, now we are into this Kathopnishad. So what we did earlier, Tattvabodha, that was what we call a Prakaran Grantha. So whenever there is an Upanishad, Upanishad is considered a slightly tougher thing to understand. So for understanding that, we have different simpler texts which outline the terms used in these books, in the Shastra. So Upanishad represents the Vedic knowledge, the highest knowledge, the knowledge of the soul, Atma Gyan, or Brahma Gyan, or whatever you want to use. So that knowledge is bit tougher. So to make it easier, we have different Prakaran Granthas like Tattva Bodh, Atma Bodh, Vedant Sar, Upadesh Sar, and so on. So all these granthas, all these textbooks, they outline. One of the very important ones I missed out was Drik Drishya Vivek, a very beautiful text. So there are so many, of course, countless. So all these texts, they detail for us the different parts of different parts of this knowledge that can be grasped. So when we look at them, when we just study them, then it becomes easier to enter into the Upanishads proper, right? But of course, there is a method by which the Upanishads can be taught, whereby whenever such a difficult terms come, then it can be explained. Because what happened was, in the Upanishads, there is something that right, the authors, they assumed. So it's not exactly author; it's a revealed verse. So they assumed that you knew these things. They were known very easily earlier in the to the earlier people. So today we have moved out of touch of these. So that is why we are not able to uh, just understand most of those terms in these days. But earlier on, people knew these. So that is why we needed these Prakaran Granthas. But when we study these Upanishads, we can easily refresh those terms. So this Mundak Upanishad is from, sorry, the Kathopanishad is from this Yajurveda only. So as I was saying, if you go into the Yajurveda mantra part, you won't find this Upanishad. Where you find them? They might not be inside the Veda also, but there are certain exceptions. So just like we have the Ishavasya Upanishad. That is the one and only one Upanishad that you will find in the Mantra Bhag. So in the 40th chapter of the Yajurveda, that is the Ishavasya Upanishad. So there you can find the full Ishavasya Upanishad, all 18 mantras. A very small Upanishad, but very powerful Upanishad. So it cannot be taught in the beginning. It needs to be taught later. So that is why we are taking a simpler one, Kathopanishad. And so this Upanishad that we are seeing here is one of the simpler ones, whereby in the form of a story, the highest knowledge is taught. So, so this Kathopnishad also, so as I was saying, some of them are from the mantra bhag. Only one is from the mantra bhag. Some of them are from the Brahmana bhag. They are extracted from the Brahmana bhag. The knowledge part is only extracted. Some are there in the Aranyak bhag also, Aranyak part also. And some Upanishads are independent Upanishads. They were visualized by different rishis without taking them out from the Brahmanas or the Aranyaks. They are separate ones. So a lot of the Upanishads are not inside any Brahmana. But if we look at this Upanishad, then this is from the Taittiriya Brahmana. So Taittiriya Brahmana. So in the Taittiriya Brahmana, if you can locate it somehow, I don't think you'll find a Hindi text, and or you'll have to order it from, I think Exotic Art has it. So there you can find it. But otherwise, mostly it's available in Sanskrit. So why I'm mentioning this is that in that Taittiriya Brahmana, there are three parts. So the third part, then the 11th section, and then the 8th subpart. That is the part from where 3.11.8. 3.11.8 is the part from where the Upanishad starts and from where it is extracted. One more thing, it's not word to word extracted. There the story is a bit longer. Right. So so when we read this Upanishad here, we will find certain gaps in the story, which is left out because they assume that it's not very important part of the main teaching. So that we will go back to that. I'll extract from the Brahmana and tell it to you so that you know the whole story. Right. Small parts, not very big. A little bit of it is left out. And of course, the final part, what we call the knowledge part, that is there completely available to us, nothing to worry about. So this text has about 119 verses, 119 mantra. We call anything in the Vedic part is, we call it mantra. And the rest in the Smriti part, that is what we call the Puranas and Mahabharata, etc. That is a shlok, and any words that we find there. So the verses there are called shlok. Here they are, the Vedic ones are called mantra. Why? Because mantra is always special. Mantra will have multiple meanings. It will have multiple meanings or multiple levels of understanding. Right. So when we are looking at all of these mantras, then uh, they convey to us a picture of reality, of understanding my own true nature. So in this particular text, it is subdivided into two big chapters and then three sub chapters each. So Adhyay and Valli. So first there are Pratham Adhyay, the first chapter, and then it is divided into three Vallis or three sub chapters, and then the second one is similarly divided into three more. So that is six. So these six parts, they cover the full text. And so Kathopnishad is basically a story about my favorite character in the Upanishadic literature. But of course, there are others also. I will not restrict to one favorite. There are so many beautiful characters. There is Yagyavalkya in the Brihadaranyaka. There is Satyakam. So all of them are there. But there is Shvetketu, of course, in Chandogya. So this one has Nachiketa. So Nachiketa is a young kid. Somewhere it is written 12 years, somewhere 14, somewhere 10, but you can average it out to 12 years. A very young kid who is watching his father do certain sacrifices, and then starts the story about how he starts to question his father. So the basic structure of all these Vedic texts is what? It is in the form of a student-teacher dialogue, samvad. So all Upanishads, Upa, Ni, Sat. Upa is something that Upa is near, Ni at the feet of, and Shad, to understand knowledge. So when you sit in front of a guru to understand the higher knowledge, that is called Upanishad. And in all of these, we always encourage in our parampara, in our system, to not blindly accept anything, right? So whenever whatever is taught to us, that has to be questioned till it has to be understood completely. So there is a three-step process for understanding everything. There is a three-step process. So what is the at the highest point of that is what we call the Shruti. So Shruti is something that has been said by the Veda. It is accepted to be true. There might be different interpretations of a same word or same words, but all of them are accepted to be right. It is the way we look at that verse that will make the give us different meanings, or sometimes two different verses might seem to have different opposite meanings. The system of Vedanta is to assimilate both of them and show that both those different meanings are not contradictory but applicable in different context. कॉन्टेक्स्ट इज डिफरेंट, उसका स्थान अलग अलग होगा जहां उसको हम उस लगा सकते हैं. देयर विल बी अ डिफरेंट एप्लीकेशन ऑफ दोस meanings. So Shruti is accepted as absolute. It is always accepted as absolute because that test has never failed. You apply it to all the Shrutis everywhere in whole Vedic corpus. If your understanding is correct, you will be able to assimilate the meanings in the proper way for every Shruti, even if the meanings appear to be contradictory. Right. So that is why Shruti is the highest level. So after Shruti comes the what we call Yukti. So Yukti is what Yukti is what we call the logical aspect. So everything that has been said by Shruti has to be examined at the level of logic. We use that term for that. We call it Nyaya. It is one of the Darshan Shastra. So Nyaya has to come in next. So Yukti, unless it is there, unless a logical explanation is there, we will not accept Shruti also. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So we have so many texts which have examined all these Shrutis because they are the voice of the Lord. The Shruti. He has given us this knowledge about things that the human mind is unable to reach. So Shruti contains all knowledge that humans are not able to understand or process or reach. That knowledge, that is the what we call the field of Shruti, right? So why? Because the Shruti is examining the nature of the whole self. So the self is what? You cannot see the self. Can you see yourself? No. If you say I'm seeing my body, that is not the self. That is just an instrument. So we'll see that also later on. So the self has to be understood. So if for knowing the self, you have to go internally, and that internal self or Atma or soul is not visible or available for perception, not even to the sense organs, but not even to the mind and intellect. So we shall see that. So this Atma or self that we are going to discuss is what we call the field of study for the Shruti, for the Upanishads. So this, when we study, we will learn to handle it in a logical way so that whatever is taught is fitting into a logical pattern. And then finally the final part is Anubhuti. Shruti, Yukti, Anubhuti. It should become my personal experience also. Otherwise, it is not acceptable. So when I apply it to myself and I understand what Shruti is saying, and I will be able to when my understanding is perfect, it will become my experience also. Whatever Shruti is saying, jo bhi Ved keh raha hai, whatever Veda is saying, it should become my personal experience also. Right? So that is the main thing about this process of how we go into the Vedic study. So now when we are looking at this text, we'll just open the first verse. So those who don't have it, maybe if you can, I can guide you in the group. Anyone wants to get added to our spiritual classes group, please send me your number. Those who have joined through Brihat or elsewhere, and I will add you there. So you can find this online. There are so many versions available. All the Upanishads that are there, the Kathopnishad is also available. You can find it on the Gita Press website. You can also install the Gita Press app. where you can get all these Upanishads. So all these are available there. And this one is with the Hindi translation. You will get English translations also, whichever is preferable to you. So every Upanishad starts with what we call a Shanti part. So what is the Shanti part? This is the invocation for auspicious beginning, right? Invocation for auspicious beginning. So this can have different, this can be of different kinds. Just for a short summary, you can say one is what we call the Ashirvadatmak, seeking benediction. Then the second one is Jnanatmak. It is revealing some aspect of knowledge. And then there is another third kind of that is what we call Stutiyatmak, something you are praising something. Yes, you are praising some higher entity or higher being. So that is the different kinds of. So whenever we surrender before a higher entity, that higher entity blesses us and helps us keep this knowledge flowing, right? So like let us say for this knowledge, so how many people were able to view this message, and how many people had the interest to come to this class, and how many people finally joined? So that depends on your own direction in life, which direction you want to go. If your direction is towards spirituality, you will come to this place and you will join and you will go ahead. I'm not saying about my class, I'm saying about any spiritual class. I'm not just saying that this is the best class and the only class. There are so many beautiful acharyas in our lineage who teach much more than me. I have very small knowledge. I don't have enough knowledge to even match with the lowest ones of them also. But still, anyway, whenever the spiritual gravitation will be, it will suck you in. And for that, what is the most important thing? The first thing of any spiritual pursuit is Shraddha. Shraddha, faith. Shraddha is not blind faith. Be very clear about that. Faith is something that tells you this text is good for me. This contains something that is beneficial for me. If I studied this well, I will be able to derive the maximum benefit. That is Shraddha. And for that, my mind should be empty of all preconceived notions. I'll repeat it again. My mind should be empty of all preconceived notions. Lot of people come to a spiritual class, they already know too much and they will go out learning nothing because they already know too much. So they will know only that much that they knew earlier. Nothing will be added to them. So I have seen a lot of people in Riyadh who really want to learn, they're eager to learn. And such people only will be able to go ahead, who are humble. Yes, I don't know much. But there are a lot of others also who think they already know too much and they are speaking so many contradictory things. They are unable to understand basic concepts. They are criticizing Shastra and to explain to them, it's not easy for a person. No, if I try to explain, I will have to go through the whole set of classes. How can I do that? So that is why I'd never quarrel there or never go to express my feelings, because I have no feelings to show off myself. If someone is wrong, they will come to the study and they will understand and they will follow. So, so you have to come with the Shraddha, a feeling of the hunger for knowledge, and the hunger for knowledge as well as the ability to let go of all your preconceived notions. So once this aspect is clear in your mind, you will be able to grasp more of the knowledge in a very easy manner. In our system we have in Punjab, we say that we have to come with the empty vessel, khali bhanda. So once that empty vessel is there, then only you can fill water. But if it's already filled with all other stuff, then there is no space for any fresh thing to come in. So with this knowledge, when we seek it, first we seek the benevolence of the higher powers. So Om Sahana, we read this verse. So luckily, this is the verse I use for most of my classes. But this Upanishad has this Shanti part itself. Every Upanishad has a different Shanti part. Some have common ones also. This is one of the more popular ones. So just chant it again. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So first words Saha Na Bhavatu. So you split it up in Sanskrit. Saha is together. Now O ki matra. You can see it down here. Yes, it's there. Saha now and here it is. So Saha now and Avatu. Avatu is to protect. So together we ask the blessings of the Lord to bless both of us together. Avatu. So who are both of us? The Guru and the Shishya. So a blessing is sought so that the Lord can bless and give his protection so that we are able to undertake this study in the best manner possible. Undertake this study. Right? So Sahana Bhavatu. Then Sahanau Bhunaktu. So here now the Sandhi has not happened because it will not go with Bhu. So it is separated. No Bhunaktu. So maybe maybe partake of this knowledge in the best manner possible. So here the word, if you look in the text, the meaning is given palan kare, sarna bhunaktu, but a more apt meaning is to maybe partake of the knowledge. Bhunaktu is bhog, to eat something, to consume something, right? To consume something. So consuming knowledge is also समथिंग दैट कैन बी कंज्यूम वी कैन इंटरनलाइज द नॉलेज हम अंदर लेके जाते हैं उसको धारण करते हैं वी टेक इट इनवर्ड्स एंड वी होल्ड इट स्टेडी इन आवर हार्ट once the knowledge is held together held strongly we are able to make that knowledge our own benefit from that knowledge so sahnau bhunaktu may we partake of this knowledge may we receive this knowledge the guru will give the teacher the student will receive so sahano bhunaktu may we partake or may we eat this knowledge if you want to use the exact word also and then saha viryam karvavahi so may we put our full effort virya is putting our full effort strength into this activity saha viryam karvavahi so may we together put our full effort into this knowledge so any kind of study will never be will never fructify or will never be beneficial till we have our full faith right so full faith means going headlong into that study so that when we are doing that study nothing comes to disturb us my focus should be so strong that nothing happening outside should distract me I am looking at this knowledge and nothing else should be able to bother me and so once when this kind of focus is there this kind of strength is there, then tejasvina avadhitamastu. So tejasvi, we become bright, our intellect shines. So we have this knowledge is flowing into us and it is expressing through my facial expressions. So that is how we should be receiving this knowledge. Tejasvi, we should be very, uh, we should be very focused on this knowledge and we should absorb it to the best manner possible. Tejas vina avadhitamastu. When we are avadhitam, when we study this knowledge. So whenever we are studying, we should be at our focused best and ma with vishavahi there should be no animosity right sometimes the student thinks he's smarter than the teacher he will keep on trying to find flaws so questioning the teacher is different but vidvisha or hatred is something that is never advised while doing any kind of study. So if the student finds something lacking in the teacher, he should see that maybe something I have not yet understood or something I will understand later on. Because sometimes, no, in spirituality especially, a lot of things that appear to be contradictory. So you will think that the teacher is saying this and I have read something else. But later on, I guarantee you things will start to make sense. Sir, unable to see bottom line. Okay, I'll just scroll down. So Tejas Vina Avadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahi. So may we not have any kind of dvesha or hatred. So this then we have the final three shantis. Why three? Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So We use it three times because there are three kinds of what we call obstacles. Trivid tap. तीन ताप होते हैं. There are three kinds of obstacles that come in our way. So आधि भौतिक, आध्यात्मिक and आधि दैविक. आधि भौतिक, आध्यात्मिक and आधि दैविक. So आधि भौतिक is the physical objects around us. So something is not available to me exactly that I need for the class. It might be something as simple as a pencil or a book where I want to write something down, or it might be something simple that like you are using a mobile and I forgot to bring an earphone and people around me, so much noise. So anything it can be. So something that you need for the study, or it might be something that you need to get to the class, right? So all these kinds of bhautik is representing all the kinds of obstacles that might come. So you ask for their shanti, not for them to not trouble you. Then you have the Adi Devik. So the divine forces, all the divine forces are running the universe. So these divine forces will understand the concept of Devta later on also. But Devta basically is a conscious entity that controls certain aspects of the creation, right? So if there is this, we have the Surya Devta. Surya Devta represents the seeing power. So drishti. So Surya, without the sun, you cannot see. Right? There has to be light from the sun. So each devta has what we call three different aspects. So these are these adhyatmic, adhibhautik, adhidevik that also we'll look at. But every devta represents a divine power. We need the blessings of those divine powers so that when we undertake a study, we will be able to complete it in the best manner possible. And then adhyatmic. Adhyatmic is our inner soul, my inner self. So that represents my mind, my body, my intellect. Unless my body is fit, I will not be able to undertake the study. Unless my mind is focused, if my mind is disturbed, I will not be able to undertake the study. Right? And if my intellect is not sharp, I'm not able to focus well, then also I'll not be able to undertake. So Adhyatma represents my inner focus, my inner strength, which I have to bring to bear upon the subject that we are studying. So this prayer we do so that we can enter into the proper mode for completing this study, right? So in this way, we can enter the study. I will tell a little bit more about this because it's not enough what I've said. So I'll just tell a little bit more about the Shanti part in the next class. So for today, the time is up. We'll wind up. Just Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. I'll just